Order. If I could ask everybody to please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chris Buckman.
Here.
Brandon Earl.
Here.
Andrea Trifles.
Here.
Jason Newberry.
Here.
Deanna Garver.
Here.
Tom Henning.
Here.
Pat Zika.
Next thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand or whatever you want to do. Raise your hand. All those opposed, same? Okay. Recognition of patrons and staff. Adam, anybody sign up? Nobody this evening? Okay. We're gonna move right on. Discussion items. First thing we have is the rental fee waiver request.
Yes, Mike Westmoreland is here this evening to speak to the board, interested in having a town hall at the high school, and want to discuss that with the board real quick.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As Mr. Hatfield said, I'd like to have a town hall type meeting, reference and active shooter education for the community. This would be driven towards the businesses and, as I said, the community here. I'm looking at something maybe September 28th, give me a little time to get it advertised. And I'm just asking if those fees could be waived to use the auditorium from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Like you said, geared towards the businesses, so you're not really talking active shooter within the school.
It's
You're
geared
talking
towards
about-
school, businesses, it's basically how to respond to those types of
Okay.
incidents. So it would be towards schools and businesses, kind of piggyback off of what Officer Wiley's gonna do with the students.
I move a waive the fee on the.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Next thing on the agenda is special meeting to discuss the revenue neutral rate.
Yes, requesting a special meeting to be held on August 22nd at 6 o'clock, but if that, need to check that with the board and see if that works for you guys. If not, we can look at a different date. We need to, Randy Ford would be here this evening, who is our accountant that we work on the budget with for all of your budget questions. And he has been here in the past, the last couple of years, so you guys are aware of him. And we would need to, that night, answer any budget questions you have, and then also any revenue neutral rate questions that you have. And we would also need to go through the building and district needs assessment process, which I'll discuss in the next item. And make any budget changes that we choose to with Randy, and then approve the budget for publishing that night. And then it would need to be published 10 days before the September meeting and before we have a budget hearing. So just requesting a special meeting to get that work done.
What time does back to school night, what is that?
The open house lasts till 6:30.
Okay, I 7 o'clock.
We can do it later again?
Yeah, but
Sure.
you got kids too. so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, that'd be
7 o'clock
fine.
would be fine.
okay.
That works, works fine.
So technically just in a discussion item, but if we can go ahead and get a date kind of penciled in, and then everybody kind of check their calendars and get back with that, if that doesn't work. So we can have everybody there.
Be great. We'll make that for 7 o'clock. Yeah, please let me know if that doesn't work for you.
Anything else on that item?
Nope.
Okay, moving on, building and district needs assessment.
Yes, so this is the new legislation that I brought up to you last month, and so our administrators came back this last week and are hard at work at this. I know our elementary administrators were working on theirs today, and so we will be, and I put the forms in your packet just for you to become familiar with the forms that they are filling out. And that's brand new to everybody, so we're all learning as we go, but I just wanted you to be aware, a couple weeks prior to us having that meeting, that once you receive all the building assessments, those will all come together, and then that evening we will recommend a district assessment board can make any changes they want to that, and then connect any changes to the budget that you are interested in as well. And then prior to putting the budget out for publishing. So I just wanted to make you aware of those forms and let us know if you have any questions. Those are forms specifically from KSDE that fit this legislation that they put out to us to help make this process work. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So essentially all the building assessments will come together along with the state assessment reviews, and then we will need to put together a district assessment from the board that will then go out as part of the budget process. So it all has to be approved in the same night now, the assessments, and then also the R&R, which got added last year, and then also the budget now. So all of those things have to be connected in the same meeting. So heading in that direction.
Okay. Adam and I were talking about this the other day. We can also potentially, depending on what we get out of the building needs assessment, that might help drive some ideas into our long-term planning too. So maybe facilities type stuff or whatever that may be. So
Yeah, we could definitely connect that to goals. And
Yep.
things.
that it there?
That's it. Just want to make you aware.
Next item, the substitute teacher rates.
Yes, substitute teacher rates have been the same for a few years, and so we did some, as we do with a lot of our market data that we give you, did some market research on what districts are paying. As you know, substitutes are hard to find. We are using a lot more substitutes these days than we would like to cover classes while we're looking for certified people. And so we have different pay rates based off of the job that they are doing. And so currently we pay a substitute who is covering a class like a normal substitute day, $100 a day. If that substitute is covering for a teacher and that teacher is involved in doing the lesson planning, but it is a long-term sub situation, like let's say we have a teacher on maternity leave or something like that, and they are still doing all the lesson planning and everything, but the sub is executing that for the class for a long period of time, then we are currently paying them $125. And then for those substitutes who are doing long-term situations but are actually covering for job vacancies, so they are doing a lot more planning themselves with co-teachers helping them, we are paying those people $150 currently. So what we noticed in our research was that most districts are now at about $110 as far as our comparison districts. And so we were wanting to up each of those categories $10 each in order to stay competitive and try to keep subs, and subs are really hard to find in the first place right now. So just looking out for our substitutes and making sure we're being fair to them. And that's obviously, we can get you more information on that. That's not something that necessarily, we can start school under the old rate and then change rates. If you guys need more information on that, that is just something that we would like to at least discuss tonight and moving possibly in that direction. Thoughts?
When did we set the $150 for?
It was I believe last January when we were heading into that. I had made a decision in the middle of the year and sent all that out to the board in an email.
Okay, so what about sick days? What is a sub that is filling in full-time? What about, do they get sick days?
We haven't tied any vacation day, or sorry, universal days to any substitute at any of those levels currently. So
I mean,
that's
I know
something we
it's
could do.
before you, but I know we've done it different for different people before you, and so it's
Okay.
still always asked. And
Yeah. I'm not aware of any universal days currently being tied to any of these substitutes that I'm aware of.
does, is it in a negotiated agreement, sub pay or no?
For teachers covering other teachers, yes.
That's the only one.
That's it, yeah. There wouldn't be anything connected to substitutes themselves.
Okay,
So I guess I just maybe made the assumption that substitutes don't get benefits, so that would be part of the universal leave piece, right?
Yeah, they're not receiving any of that. That's just pay for filling in for us, is what it's generally doing.
is it still a thing, like, because I just remember, which has been a few years, after 3 days, say I fill in for, you and you have the flu and you're gone for 10 days.
Right.
Is it after the third day you go to that second rate?
Yeah.
So
they
if
go
I
to the long-term
substitute
sub.
more, if I substitute 5 days, the fourth and the fifth day, I get paid the one,
125 currently, yeah. 135 is what it would be. Yes, that's correct.
okay, that isn't. Is 135 the second rate there?
Yes.
We have 2 rates, okay.
Yeah, it's 100, 125,
Okay.
150 currently, which is really tidy and clean,
Yes.
and now we're wanting to make it 110, 135, 160, which is $10 each.
So if you sub over 3 days, then it jumps to the 135.
Yes. And then if you long-term sub for an open position, then, and you're involved in planning with co-teachers, then that is another rate up. So those people are having to spend time planning.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay, just a discussion item, but if we wanted to go ahead and move on it, we can. Or if you wanna let it soak another month, we can also do that, so.
Either way.
Do you know what other schools pay for teachers that are subbing full-time? I'm all for substitutes, I'm not trying to knock them down. I think,
Yeah.
they should be paid. I'm just, what other schools pay that much if I'm filling in?
Yes,
semester?
I think we're pretty matched up with, I don't know, I don't have a lot of data on the third. Most of the data that we get is on just subbing. And I know that there is typically all districts have some sort of long-term sub rate. Within our district, we had quite a few subs last year that were expressing frustration because this person was, not having to do any lesson planning, even though they were long-term subbing. They had a teacher that was doing all that for them. And then we had some people that were doing that long-term sub piece where they were having to do a lot more of that. That was something that we added in last year to try to support those people. So I don't have a lot of data from other districts on that third tier. We were just trying to be fair based off of, how we're tiering it up there. So, but the first two, as far as the first 2 tiers, I think we're pretty in compliant or in market with
It
those.
used to say, that something like that, you get paid 1/nth of a salary. Is that not a thing anymore?
If a teacher, like the teacher contract shows, if you, let's say you don't work an entire year, let's say we have somebody that starts in January, then I believe at the top of the contract in the negotiated agreement, it says that they would receive 1/nth, essentially 1 day of worth of their teacher pay, if it was a shorter contract.
Does it say that for subs? Because it used to.
I don't, not that I can think of.
I would like more research on what, because I'm sure there's lots of them, and I'm not saying this is too much, and I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
enough.
sure.
I wanna be fair, and if,
Yeah.
'cause it did used to say that,
Okay.
that they got after, for something like this, you got paid 1/nth or whatever that is.
Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
sentence you're talking about in there.
So,
Okay, yeah, we can bring that back.
but that's just me.
Be happy to provide more information. Like I said, we can start with our subs at the old rate until we get this figured out, and then it can switch us upon board approval, so it's not the end of the world to not do it tonight.
Any other discussion on that? If not, we will move on to athletic facility update.
We'll get that info out to you. Okay, a few things with athletic facilities. We met with DCS. As you know, last month the board gave recommendations on what they would like to see possibly changed within the plan. So we took those notes, we got those to DCS. They requested more time than to come back this month, so they've requested to come back in September to provide that to you. And they have, so they will be coming back with that. And so I just wanted to make everybody aware so that you didn't think we're skipping a meeting, that is what their request in order to do further work. And 2 things that went along with that in discussion last month. One was community feedback. The board had requested more for community feedback, and we absolutely want to do that, but we want to get to the point where we have the plans that the board feels really good about getting out to the community, and I don't think we're quite there yet. And once we get that, then we will plan to send that out to the community for feedback. And then also the topic came up of naming rights, and I sent you a little bit on that over this last month. There is not a lot, besides what I sent you, there is not a lot of policy surrounding that. And so really, I think the board can probably do whatever you want to do. We would just want to make sure it was in writing as far as how long the period would go, how, how that would look. We would want to make some sort of agreement with that entity or company or person or whatever it is, in order to make sure that we have all that in writing. But there is not a lot of, besides the naming right policy that I sent you, there's not a lot else that KSB has specific guidance on for that. So I just wanted to get both of those pieces of information back to you. And then DCS will be back here next month. We will probably schedule a facility meeting between now and then so that the facility committee can look those over prior to them coming to the board. So I think that's where we are at now.
So say we have the two plans, then we have to have at least 3 bids, right?
We would
Put out
want
the
to,
bid and
yeah,
not-
we would want, more than likely, since we're working with DCS, they would go out to bid for us, but they would be looking for different companies to put in for that.
Could we recommend or tell them
Yes,
someone to go to?
yes, they will take recommendations on companies that we are interested in getting bids from. They've said that before.
I think someone brought up before, if not, the committees that we have just seem redundant.
Okay.
Somebody else mentioned that once. Did you say that once, Jason, or something?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Was that it on the athletic facility?
Yeah,
Seems
just
to
letting you
have
know where we're at. So you're aware.
Okay. If there's no other discussion on that, we will move on to action items. And the first thing we have there is the crisis plan.
Yes, last month, Officer Wiley was here and discussed the crisis plan with you, and you were giving him feedback, and Chief is here tonight as well, and they're both gonna talk to you kind of about school safety as we head into school, so. Come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. With the incident that occurred back on May 24th in Uvalde, Texas, at Robb Elementary School, our focus on the security of our students, our teachers and staff at our schools is definitely at a high point. With that in mind, it was suggested that Chief Heath and I would be here tonight to outline for you what steps that we're taking as a district and as a police department to prepare for such an event. God forbid it should take place. But the first item that I wanted to discuss with you tonight, going back to our last meeting in July, it was suggested that we visit the reunification sites that have been listed in our crisis plan. That the reunification sites are the places that each school have listed in the crisis plan that the students and staff can go to in the event of an emergency evacuation to reunify with parents and guardians and so forth. It perhaps had been a while since we had confirmed that we still have access to those sites, and so I did go to each site and talk to people at those sites and verify that we still do have access to each of them. Are there any questions about that?
Are they open at all times, or would there some of them be locked?
They're not all open at all times. Some of them might be locked after hours. The expectation is the ones that are not always open would be open whenever school is in session. The next item I wanted to mention is the anonymous tip system that we've been working on. During the last school year, Chief Heath directed me to look into developing a tip system for the students to be able to use, an anonymous tip line. And so we've been working on that in conjunction with a couple of the classes at the high school a couple of the art classes who helped a lot with developing a logo. I've brought a couple of flyers here to pass around. You can take a look at some instructions for the students to be able to access the tip line using their cell phones. And I've been distributing those to the buildings in the district. The anonymous tip line is meant to allow the students the ability to report things that are making them feel unsafe or nervous, such as violence, drugs, crime, you name it, anything that might make them feel unsafe or insecure, they'd be able to report it anonymously. The hope is that with the ability to report it as an anonymous reporter, they would be more inclined to report more things to us. Are there any questions about the tip line?
You say that has been implemented, or you're getting ready to?
It's set up and the flyer there has been distributed to all the buildings so that the students would be able to access it right now. The next item I wanted to discuss was the site security assessments at each building. Over the last couple of weeks, I've gone to each building with just to look at each building with a layperson's eye, just to take a look at what things might need to be addressed at each building, changes that might need to be made to make them more secure, to increase the physical security of each building. So my intent is to prepare an assessment for each building and provide that to the building administrators and to central office so that they might have some ideas of what we could improve going forward in each building. It may be that we may want to hire a professional service to do that for us. We can certainly do that. That is another step that we're going through to increase the security at the facilities. Another idea is the emergency packs. Some years back, a class at the high school took on a project of preparing the red emergency backpacks to place in each classroom. In the event of an emergency lockdown, each class would be able to use the supplies in that backpack to help them through that lockdown. I know that some of the supplies in the packs have become outdated, need to be replaced. For instance, water. I know there's some Smarties and some meat sticks for diabetic people, and those need to be replaced. And so I'll be working on that during this school year and getting those taken care of. Any questions about that? Or the next item I want to talk about is the training of our staff. We have presentations and drills scheduled for all of the staff in the district. These are to take place at each building coming up week after next week. They'll be coming up next week. And all of the staff are to receive this training. And then later on after that, all of the staff and students will be participating in drills together at a later date. The students likewise will have the opportunity to attend the presentations at each building, and as well as the drills to be taken at a later date with the staff. Are there any questions about those?
Is there gonna be information for the parents to let them know what these drills consist of, so we know what our children will be exposed to?
I've been in touch with Russ and about the availability of people to be able to call me and ask questions about that. I hesitate to just put all of that information out on a public forum about exactly what we're gonna be doing to prepare in those drills. I would be very happy to tell parents about what we're gonna be doing in the schools and give them an opportunity to voice their opinions, concerns, suggestions.
And I read somewhere where the children or the parents had the option to opt them out of that.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we did put out a letter giving the parents the option to opt out of the training if they so choose to do so, and I imagine
To
that
opt out of the
obviously.
training? You just said parents can opt out of the training.
their children,
Yeah, if they
Training
don't,
or the
like the drills.
training or the drills.
Okay. Before, when this all kind of came up a few years ago, we had meetings, parent meetings I attended one at the middle school, where they shared the information you said people can call and get from you. So that might be a way to reach, not that anybody goes to meetings or anything, but, might be one way other than,
We would not hesitate to provide a meeting like that if
I
it's
think they had two or
necessary.
three just to, different times, you remember that?
We definitely want to provide that information and input, to the parents. Just hesitate to put it out on a public forum
Yeah, I
for
understand that,
everybody to see.
right.
How would that work with, let's say two students in a classroom are opted out of the drill and the teacher's supposed to have a drill that day, kind of like a fire drill, it's just gonna be, there's not gonna be any notice, so how would that work?
We're not gonna be able to do a scenario like that without providing some notice. And we'll
Okay.
also have to provide a location for those students to
Okay.
be during the drill.
So if I may, and this is a question that I asked Officer Wiley, is, and he's been involved in the majority of this for the past couple of weeks, but as a school board and for no better terms, you're in charge. But what type of training, and I don't know, and I asked Troy this question, but what type of training are you guys wanting to see? Because I think you have a stake in that.
I think what I came from it, or what I was talking about is not like an active where you pinpoint someone, just enough guidance if something did come into a school and it happened, these kids aren't freaking out. They kind of have, okay, we go here to this X place or we go here, because if not, you're gonna have kids running everywhere, and then that's when I think the fatalities happen. I mean, they don't know. And that was when we brought it up, what I kind of thought of it as.
And to go along with that, I mean, you've actually had scenarios in our community where that has actually been implemented. And that has occurred.
Sure.
So I don't think it's any secret from the standpoint of the schools in our community, what, in the event, what needs to happen. But from a board standpoint and in relationship with law enforcement, what are you interested as far as training wise? That's where I'm a little unclear.
I think, in my mind, the training's for the teachers, and it's mandated by the state that we have. Well, I think the X amount of these kinds of drills.
Right.
I mean, the state mandates that, just like they tell you how many fire drills, how many, so it's not like we can not do them.
Right.
I brought it up in the first place because I know we don't do all of them. I know several elementaries that have this, I always call it active shooter, that sounds too crude to me, but that's, I know there's a nicer, calmer way to say it, which I think we would need to use for kids. I know Kennedy did one ever so often, and it was just simple, calm, but if it ever happened, like you said, they would have in their mind, I think in that Uvalde instance, the teacher said, get under the desk, and now they're finding out some of the schools haven't had training, they don't know, so. My thing is just whatever we do, make sure we do it,
Right.
Because I don't think we have in the past. And,
Well, I'll just share that my biggest concern is, I think the parents, number one, need to be notified. And number two, I think the parents play a role as far as the training is concerned. I agree, and I think this is something Troy and I have not talked about, but maybe community meetings for
Right.
parents to attend. I
yeah,
think that's a good
what
avenue.
we had those before, and
Right.
they weren't well attended, and I think there was some like at noon, just different hours so that you could accommodate parents.
I agree with that.
Do you think you need to have different training for different levels, like the elementary, the middle school, and the high school? Because obviously with the elementary kids, they're gonna need more guidance where as you get into the high school, maybe like Brandon said, hey, you need to go here. You know,
Definitely.
I don't know what you're looking at on that, if you're looking at that.
Our district is using the ALICE curriculum, and ALICE curriculum has been constantly changing. And of late, they have tailored their trainings to different age groups, different development levels, I might say. For instance, you're not gonna teach a second grader how to wrestle with an active shooter, right? That's just an extreme example, but we need to provide information for them that's tailored to their age level, that's appropriate for them. And also Alice has gone to a more trauma-informed format. They are more in tune to trying not to traumatize the students in the training and making their educational environment too stressful. So they have taken that into consideration as well. So that's the curriculum that we're going with right now is the ALICE. At the police department, we're also training. We tend to prefer training that's been put out by Alert. That's more of a law enforcement specific training curriculum. And I'm also ALICE certified, but I've taken a couple of the Alert train the trainer courses so that I can teach a couple of those. In September, I'll be attending another one, a level 1 course, which is a course that will allow me to bring that back to our local police department and train the officers there. There's a number of area trainings also put on and offered by Alert that our officers hopefully will be able to attend here shortly this year. Any questions about that training?
I think maybe after the training, if some parents signed that they didn't want to do it, if they would attend a meeting, then they may change, because they don't really know what they were signing. Just know it, so maybe after more information is given out to parents, exactly what they're choosing, that might help too. It sounds like that's what you guys are gonna do.
I'm just real hesitant, like you said, about getting too much information out there. I just don't wanna be in a situation where we've trained our gunmen what we're gonna do, and so that they have more information than they necessarily need.
Sure, that is definitely a concern. It's difficult to address, very difficult to address.
That tip line, I like that, I thought that looked really good. Are you gonna get that out to other, like, in the media so that anybody can use that?
I'd have to
Or is that something you don't?
address that to other personnel as far as how that's been displayed on the media, as far as social media or websites. Thus far personally, I've only provided it to the central office and I've placed up flyers myself. I couldn't address how exactly it's been displayed in the media.
Or just,
Yeah, definitely would need to do that.
Be interesting at the end of the year to see how many people gave you tips. Just, don't give us details, but, we had 14 tips come through to see if it's working, if they're comfortable using it.
Yeah.
We do that. I can give you those numbers on a yearly basis. The tip line is part of the Sumner County Crime Stoppers program, so it operates through the same program. I just felt the need from our school perspective to give the kids an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but an avenue, should they see something. So Troy and I sat down probably in the middle of last school year, and I know he's worked on it since that time. And I think we're ready to move forward. It's awful quiet here.
So the one question I've got with, obviously, it's a great thing, but it's gonna get abused, right? I mean, how many tips are gonna come through just because they can. You know what I'm saying? Not even they've witnessed anything. It's just hi. You know how is
The
there?
service that we're gonna be using is used by districts all over the nation. A lot of local districts are. I know all of the schools up in Sedgwick are using it. P3 tips will be the application that we'd be using. It's able to screen a lot of that.
Okay, that was what I was.
There's still gonna be some stuff that gets through, but I mean, are we willing to sift through that ourselves to get to the legitimate needs? And I think we are.
So the community discussions, I mean, I think, Mike kind of mentioned this earlier, as kind of a partnership between Sumner County and Wellington PD. But that could be one of the starting points for the community discussion is the event out at the high school. And then we can kind of spur out from that. So.
Right. Undersheriff told me, or talked to me about that the other day, about how it might be a venue for people to be able to ask those questions and to learn some of what is gonna be presented in the training that we'll have in the district.
Bill, any other questions for Chief or Shirley?
Thank you. Appreciate
welcome.
all that.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
We need to approve something? Crisis plan?
Yeah,
Do we need to approve it?
If the board's comfortable, yes, that would be good.
So hopefully everybody's had a chance to look over the crisis plan with the changes that Troy just mentioned. So I would entertain a motion on the current crisis plan that's in effect.
I'll make that motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to the strategic plan and district goals.
Yes, last week, we met in a planning session and went over the strategic plan and district goals that were presented to the board for the 22-23 school year to be accomplished. Thanks, Mike. And so have those out there for any further discussion and then possible approval or action, I should say, if the board is ready to do so based off of our work last week. Hopefully we answered your questions appropriately and gave you the information needed to feel good about the goals coming up for the year and for 5 years to come.
Okay, I know I wasn't there, but it seems to me we've done most of these, and so always having the yearly goal, it's like, what do we have to be reminded I don't know, they just seem like
She may see that the stuff you accomplished this year, we talked about
Yeah,
for
but-
next year.
Which one are you talking about?
Well, I'm just, like, student will, USD 353 will implement ACT prep opportunities for grade levels. Okay, we've got that set, so that's a goal that was achieved. So we'll create enrichment opportunities for high school, for high achieving student. I mean, they're just, to me, they're no-brainers. I mean, call them a goal. I think of goal as something new that we're striving for, not to be judged on if we did these things or not, because that was, we're already doing them. That's what we're judged on. Kind of fluff, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we like the board did discuss them last week and the intent, some goals on there are new, some goals are continued. The reason within that discussion, when it is a continued goal, it is because since that is directly tied to evaluation, superintendent's evaluation, all those things at the end of the year, we have to provide to the board what has been different. So by putting that in there, it puts direct pressure on superintendent and the district to show at the end of the year that we have furthered that. So if there is a goal that we've had in the past that we are continuing, it is because we feel like there needs to be pressure on the system in order to continue to grow in that particular area and to be able to show that to the board at the end of the year.
Can you tell me which ones are new that we?
The enrichment goal that you just read is new. Pull them up. Get my computer to work. changed the data dashboard goal to provide direct influence instead of just get that up and going, so we would have to provide that.
Which one's that?
For number one. Number two, we do not have 8th grade doing ACT yet, and so we wanna make sure that.
Who do we
that
have
is-
doing it?
We have the high school doing it, but we're
You
set
said
up.
that this year we have a program, because I asked about it, because we talked about last year that we were gonna give, that you can give practice tests, and so we were gonna give a practice test. And
But what I said when we were talking about in the evaluation is that we have things set up at the high school. What we don't have set up is the
that is
8th
not what
grade.
you said.
Okay, well, we'll disagree on that. We don't have the 8th grade set up, and so that is what we are set up for next year. And we
So
can
what's
change that goal to read exactly that if you would like,
Yeah,
or if the board would like, I should say. And then
so what's
enrichment.
what's different about number one?
Number one is going from needing to go further with that. So we have our data dashboard now, and so we need to actually set up a system that specifically targets that, making that specifically sync down into the district. For instance, we went from just administrators having access to that, we were trying to move to teachers having access to that. I know that the board has brought up interest in parents in the future having access to that. And then we also need to set up a system within the district so that the district is specifically using that. Our whole point at this level is to put pressure on the system to make sure that things are getting accomplished and that we are continuing to share the growth in those. So that specific goal needs a lot more work. It's not good enough to just have a data dashboard. It is how you use it. Like what's the purpose? So that is the pressure that is put on with that particular goal. Enrichment opportunities comes out of our discussion with multiple board members that we feel like the district does a really good job with, with MTSS and some of our lower achieving students that need some enrichment or need some help at the lower levels. But when it comes to students that are more high achieving students, we don't necessarily feel that the district is always as good as we could be in that area. And so putting that goal in there directly puts pressure on us so that a year from now we are, it is a requirement to show what we have done in that area. So up and down the list, if you see a repeat, it is because we feel like it's not that we're gonna sit here a year from now and repeat the exact same thing that we said. It means that we need to make continued growth in that area and make that happen. MTSS at the secondary level is a new goal.
We haven't been doing MTSS.
We just don't think that it's at the peak that it needs to be. So that puts pressure on us there. And then obviously track and football facilities, that is a repeat because of where we're at in the process. And we need to show that that is continuing to move forward. And then plan of study is a new one that we discussed the other night. So yes, there are some repeats and some new ones, but that is if they are repeats, then that is a purposeful repeat. If that makes sense.
Any other questions on the strategic plan and district goals? If not, it is in our action items.
I make a motion that we approve the district goals for 2022, 2023, and the 5-year 22 to 27 353 strategic plan.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same.
No,
No.
you're just so lame.
Well, we had a meeting about it, Pat,
I
but
know
you
we
didn't
did.
bother to come. I feel like I
Why?
wasted my time because we gotta repeat it all tonight.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Why did I waste my time at that meeting?
I don't know.
Let's move on, guys. Administrative reports.
I still would have, I just want to preface this, had I been at the meeting, I still would have addressed these things because I think the public needs to know and to hear. It wasn't a private, I think they need to hear what we all they can say.
It wasn't a private meeting.
Just a
No, I know,
public
that's what I
meeting.
mean, it wasn't a private meeting, and so I just feel, I mean, lots of times I ask questions that I know the answer to, but I want the public to hear. So I still would have shared my concerns.
And you still would have said they're fluff?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I want goals, I want to get rid of mediocrity. But that's okay,
So then
that's my
administrative
opinion,
reports.
so we're ready to move on.
Do I share anything as schools rolling in?
So far, so good.
I've got scared new administrators sitting up there.
Yeah.
The carpet's coming along at the high school. If you want to come by and see it, come on down, we're
Yeah,
there.
if you guys wanna do a tour of that, we can do that. We have some changes being made. We were out there today actually, and they are coming along. It's not quite as far as we would like, but we are putting a lot of pressure to get a lot done, especially this week, before everybody rolls back in, so.
Has the auditorium been carpeted?
Not yet,
Not yet.
not yet.
We're, last time I was out there, they were working on the print room. Did that get done?
It's finished.
What about the computer room?
They started that this afternoon. So they finished the choir room with the risers, and they hauled the carpet into the business rooms, which have those wooden risers in them, and began working on them probably 3 o'clock this afternoon.
What about the hallway where they were gonna, have they addressed that or not?
No, they haven't relayed the pattern yet. They're gonna do that after they get everything else finished, because they're taking quite a
How
while to
far
finish.
along are they on the trim?
On most of the shoe molding is done. Coat base is what they call it. So most of that's done. There's small places to do that.
You
They
have,
say they'll be done by Thursday.
you have an ETA on the plastic that you were showing me?
The transitions, yeah, they'll finish those when they replace those pieces that are ruined.
So we have them now?
They have
Stop.
them, yes.
So what's the ETA of them getting finished before school or not?
They say they're gonna be finished on Thursday, and we'll have a walkthrough scheduled on Friday this week, sorry.
Do they have their 6-person team out there or?
There was, I think 8 of them today.
Oh, good.
So.
Are they still
2
showing
kids.
up at 10:40 or?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Looks like the next thing we have is the executive session.
Make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel for 15 minutes to include Adam Hatfield and the executive, or the administrative team. Regular meeting will resume at 7:04 PM.
And we are in the middle of audit, so that room's a little different than
Oh.
normal city, so just saying.
Are we moving down?
Yeah, we'll go back there. I'm just letting you know the auditors are spread out in there, so.
Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay. Okay, we are back in open session, no action was taken, and we'll be moving on to the consent agenda.
Approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting. Approve payroll and bills. Payroll $257,668.71. Bills $1,262,266.31. Approve new hires. Olivia Farley, para, Washington Elementary. Ashley Ewing, para at Eisenhower. Connor Burnett, para, Kennedy. Brandon Lambert, business teacher, middle school, starting in the spring. Cassidy Brungart, business teacher, middle school, long-term sub. Desiree Schwartz, business teacher, middle school, long-term sub. Courtney Nadir, fifth grade teacher at Lincoln. Eric Pitts, custodian at the high school. Kendra Bwin, para, Lincoln. Kim Ledesma, print shop / COVID aide at the high school. Victoria Thompson, science and agriculture at the high school. Aubrey Roths, 8th grade science, the middle school. Jessica Rains, kindergarten, Lincoln. Hudson Ramirez, computer technician. And Heather Walcher, speech language pathologist. Approve resignations. Jamie Ingstrand, social worker, high school. Carol Elsass, para, high school. Norma Sears, printing department at the high school. And approve transfers / position changes. Jennifer Lira, Eisenhower aide to Lincoln para. Mike Cliffman, maintenance grounds to supervisor of maintenance and grounds. Brett Clark, grounds to ISS at the middle school. And Karen Cornejo, middle school business teacher to 6th grade math teacher.
Okay. Entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion in a couple seconds, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay. And moving on to board comments. Let's start over here with Mr. Buckman.
I don't have anything tonight.
I don't have anything, just welcome back to school.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna hand on. Hopefully everybody's got enrolled and found their casino cards and everything's smooth, all along smooth, so.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight either.
Pat?
Of course I do. Can you share about how e-gaming, how many people, how that's gonna go on? Did we find a teacher? We did find a teacher, but
We can have the coach share some of that, but I'm not in those meetings anymore. So the coaches and Ellie Johnson, our new athletic director, are handling that.
okay, what about a
Bring
virtual?
Ellie in, you want me to bring Ellie in next month?
No, just a report on, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a brand new thing and it'd be nice
Sure.
to see how many people actually
Sure.
are in it and how it's, what we're doing and
Good.
how the middle school, that was kind of questionable at one point. The virtual school, do we have anybody, how many do we
We
have?
have one interested right now. And we're gonna do that interview tomorrow.
So we don't have a teacher doing that, right?
Not yet, because we haven't had a need for it. And we talked about it, if we had enough interest, that we would have to get a teacher, but
But that would be, I mean, we wouldn't hire a person for 1 or 2 or 3 people. So we had, how many did we have last year?
we ended up with 2 last year.
Is this usual kind of start for
Um,
schools that have started this program, or is it usually?
we could, I mean, if we wanted to hire some teachers, we could make it a big program. But I think right now, coming off of COVID, we're really glad to have the kids coming into the schools. So we have it available, and as interest grows, we can grow the program.
I'm confused. So we don't want very many people in it? I mean, because at one
No,
point, you
we're
wanted to
not-
expand it to the middle school.
Right,
And
so this year we expanded, so now we're 9 through 12.
we just have
it
one
available.
person. that
Yeah,
wants to.
just one person about.
That qualifies.
That wants,
Does-
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that's
Yeah,
the
right, you have to
thing.
qualify.
That's the thing, is we can set this up, and really, we can set it up however the board wants. We can set it up as come one, come all, which is what a lot of them are, and then there's varying success with that. Typically, you have people that do a good job with that, you have people that are just trying to get out of going to school every day situation that also apply for this type of stuff, and this has been, what we've set up is pretty strict as far as, you have to be here and you have to show that, that you've been able to do regular school and all that kind of stuff, so. So really, you can set it up as either way. In our district, because we have it at that tier, then we have, not very many students that are interested that are, wanting to be in virtual and are qualify at the level we have it at. Now, if we open that up, then we may have a lot more, I don't know, especially as students get frustrated throughout the year, or they, have conflicts or whatever. A lot of times you have people that are trying to come up with alternative education plans, and if we set it up so that they qualify, minimum qualifications, then we would have a lot of people probably join throughout the year that are frustrated by other things. If we leave it at a tier thing where they have to be, they have to have shown all these things at school, then you're probably gonna have less people. So, but yeah.
So
I
is this
understand.
costing us anything?
and that's the thing, if we wanna grow it, we're gonna have to invest money up front in teachers to.
What's gonna be the point where we know we need to grow it? I mean, just since it's open from 9 to 12 and we just have, one or two, how many were interested that didn't, how many didn't make the cut? I mean, how many?
I think we've had that in the past. I think now that everybody knows the last couple of years what the qualifications are, they don't try.
Yeah.
Is my guess, but yeah, we don't have it open into a big thing like we did, so.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
wondering.
That it?
Yeah. Do we still have that school or whatever down south, Old Wellington Hospital?
No.
It's a when to be.
They closed it, well, no, they closed it
They closed it
and
for
then
a while and then
reopened
Yeah.
as something else.
Yep.
But
We
they
pull
do-
out before they close it, and it'd been nice if we all
No.
would have been told that we don't have it anymore, cause I was, going on and on about how we had these, and they're like, oh no, I'm like, I mean, I feel like an idiot, and I feel like we should have all been told that we pulled out of it.
We didn't pull out,
We-
they,
Well, that closed, we should
They
still, I
closed.
think we should have been told that we no longer are associated with it. Cause really, I'm going on and on, how, yeah, we have something down there, and I don't like fully understand it, and they're saying, no, it's shut, so that's pretty major. You new people might not know. that we
No, I don't
had-
even know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, I knew it was closed.
you don't know?
I knew it was closed.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know it was closed. Just more transparency on what's.
Definitely not intentional, but I'm sure we make mistakes along the way.
There's no other board comments. I believe we are adjourned for the evening.
Thank you.
I will concur. Me neither.
Where's Carol?